Hello, Internet. It's the later half of December, and that means I don't want to go into public. So, we're back for another episode of Weekly Auto News. And it's been an interesting week as I've got news on Aston Martin's classic car EV program, Lincoln's making good on its Instagram promises, and there's a Tesla Model S out there that just wants to watch the whole world burn. And more. But first, we'll kick it off with some news from Buick, as patent nerds with GM Authority have recently become aware that Buick has trademarked the name Enspire. And that's Inspire with an E. Inspire. Anyway, which is pretty interesting, as Inspire was also the name of an EV concept that Buick showed off in Beijing in April of this year. And as far as electric crossover SUVs go, this one didn't seem too bad. It was showcased with 550 horsepower, a 0 to 60 time of 4 seconds, and an advertised range of over 370 miles. It was also known that the concept version of the vehicle supports a fast charge system that can bring the car back up to 80% in roughly 40 minutes of charge time. Of course, from the looks of things coming out from the likes of BMW, Porsche, and Tesla, that's going to be woefully outclassed before it ever reaches the market, but hey, maybe they'll work on it. In addition to quick charging, we do know that the concept was equipped with some pretty cool headlights, a futuristic interior, a nifty heads-up display, which goes so far as placing the navigation function on the windshield in front of the driver, and even goes so far as to highlight actual streets in front of you as you drive along your navigation route, which is pretty cool. Also, if the SUV does end up making it to market, we do know that it'll most likely share architecture with the Cadillac XT4. Or to think about it a different way, it'll basically be a giant electric version of the current Buick Regal. It's also thought that despite not being a full-size SUV, it would likely enter into Buick's lineup somewhere near the top of the brand's price range, due mostly to the electrification and some pretty high-tier luxury and tech. And I'd start looking out for an official release on this sometime in the later half of 2019. And it was recently announced that British brand Aston Martin would begin offering EV conversions of some of the brand's classic gasoline-powered cars. The new venture will also help to revive the Lagonda brand, as any new electric vehicles made by Aston Martin will be badged as Lagondas, and that the Lagonda wing of the company is actually the one doing the conversions anyway. For example, a classic Rapide E would ship with over 200 miles of range, a 0 to 60 time of less than 4 seconds, and a top speed of 155 miles an hour. And if you should end up spending all that money for an EV conversion and decide you don't like it, Aston Martin has also stated that it will reinstate the vehicle's original powertrain if you so desire. And to make it all that much more interesting, the new venture will originally apply to classic vehicles in Aston Martin's Heritage program, but will soon extend the conversions to vehicles made by other brands as well. The new program will begin in 2019, and customers can begin taking deliveries in the fourth quarter. And speaking of electric vehicles, this week, California-based ABC7 News recently ran a story about a man who was out driving his new 3-month-old Tesla Model S when suddenly the car began throwing up tire pressure warnings. The driver, assuming he possibly had something minor like a flat tire, then stopped and exited the vehicle to investigate. Which was fortunate, as shortly thereafter the car started smoking and then abruptly burst into flames. This was just the beginning, however, as the local fire department apparently spent the next 6 hours trying to extinguish the Model S, as electric battery fires are virtually impossible to put out. All this took place as the vehicle was off-gassing, and the car even caught fire again after authorities were confident they had put it out. Just something to think about. And as I'm sure you all know, Christmas is upon us, and the holiday spirit isn't lost on the car manufacturers either, as in recent weeks you may have seen some advertising involving a Santa sleigh-themed 2019 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat Red-Eye, which is way too long of a name. The new sleigh will feature 797 horsepower, 707 pound-feet of torque, custom reindeer Hellcat badging, independent exhaust that has been intelligently moved in front of the driver's position, wheel deletes, and a retro-inspired chopped windshield. And if that doesn't get you in the Christmas spirit, how about some limited edition Toyota wrapping paper that's a direct copy of the now famous A90 Super Camo. Pretty cool. The new Super Camo wrap was sold recently in the UK to raise funds for their Crisis at Christmas charity program, so at least it's actually out there for a good cause. Only 500 units were available, and all of them have been sold. And after years of teasing the idea, Lincoln has confirmed on Monday that it will really bring back suicide doors to the Lincoln Continental, or as Lincoln prefers to call them, coach doors. The new gangster version of the Continental will begin showing up in dealerships as early as this summer. But of course, there's a catch. there's always a catch. And the catch is that Lincoln will be making 80 of them in 2019 in order to mark the 80th anniversary of the vehicle. And that the new 80th anniversary editions would cost north of $100,000, which is more than double the initial asking price of a base model 2018 Continental, by the way. However, there is hope, as Lincoln also said it would make a limited number of the new Continentals in 2020 as well, though it didn't specify just how limited. Either way, if they wanted to really maximize on the limited amount of attention they get as a brand, I'd imagine they may want to shoot for a couple of thousand for the 2020 models rather than, say, 81. I mean, really, people need to see these things on the street, at least occasionally, if they want to generate any hype with the public and make people actually want to buy a Lincoln Continental over some other brand's offering. And it just doesn't seem very likely that they're going to make that happen with an average of 1 or 2 per state. And in recall news, just in time for winter, Ford has announced that it'll be recalling some 874,000 F-150 pickups in North America that use a potentially faulty engine block heater that could lead to your truck bursting into flames. Fortunately, there's a simple short-term fix, as the heater can be disconnected until the potentially faulty heater cables are able to be inspected at a dealership and potentially replaced. And Porsche has also announced that it'll be recalling some 75,000 Panamera sedans worldwide in order to fix an electrical power steering software problem that could render your steering unavailable. So, if you drive a Porsche Panamera made between March 2016 and December 2018, Porsche recommends you stop by a dealership as soon as possible. And that should wrap it up for this week's episode of Weekly Auto News, but I've got more coming, so keep it tuned in here. Merry Christmas, Internet, and thank you everyone for checking out this video. But until then...